Night Rose, Night Rose, Night Rose. What type of ghosty card is that? How we doing, guys? It is John here bringing you another premium deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard. This time we're going to be taking a look at Ghosties for Granblue. Now, I have been playing with this variant for the past couple of weeks now with the recent ban list, and I've got to say it is a super enjoyable deck. It definitely reminds me of the old school style of Night Rose with a lot of multi-attacking, but at the same time, it is a large tank, being able to guard for large amounts of numbers fairly easily. And if you do like this style of deck, then this is definitely a deck to take a look at. Anyway, I'm going to be going over all of my reasonings, my cards, my choices, all of that good stuff. And if you do like this style of content, guys, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to these videos, as it does help the channel and we greatly appreciate it. But with that being said, let us take a look at the ghosty side of Granblues, aka someone called the Ghostbusters. So here is the list. Of course, as always, if you would like to take a screenshot, you may do so now, but for you as well, I will be having a link in the description down below to the deck log, so you may take a look at the stat as well. So like I said previously, the deck is very straightforward here. Your main grade 3 ride is of course going to be Ghostie leader Beatrice, and you're going to want to tank with large amounts of guards, with basically your entire roster being Ghosties, as well as the fact that you can do things such as G-Guardian plays with Negro Lily to be able to make more defensive plays, such as being able to get plus 10k off of Make the Ghostie effect, or a pseudo denial Griffin play with Skeleton Cannoneer. Anyway, I'm going to be going over all my card by cards and explain everything as you see it here. So the first card we are going to be talking about is the main lady herself, Ghostie leader Beatrice. So her effect is very simple. Vanguard rearguard, when placed, you may Soul Blast 1 and call a card not named Ghostie leader Beatrice from the drop zone to the rearguard circle. And then Vanguard, super important effect. All of your units with Ghostie in their card names on their rearguard and the Guardian Circle get intercept and plus 5,000 power and plus 5,000 shield. So that is going to be the main bread and butter when it comes to this deck, is that all of your defensive cards will have plus 5,000 power and plus 5,000 shield. So when you guard with something with a 5k with Beatrice's effect, that's going to be a 10k. However, if you combo that with something like the Protect 2 marker, meaning you'll get an additional 5,000 shield, that means that 5k is now a 15k. Vice versa, if you guard with a 15k, it is now a 25k. Plus the fact that it has intercept, there are multiple lines of play that you can do here when it comes to that sort of thing. And then additionally, the other part is when your rearguard is retired by the card ability during your turn, you may counterblast 1 and call a card with Ghostie with the same grade, with a grade less than, than the retired unit and call it to rearguard circle. So if you're doing combo plays with Beatrice, right, you do something like Jessie the Ghostie. Jessie the Ghostie will go over in a little bit, but it is a Ghostie unit that can retire itself and then countercharge. You then counterblast with Beatrice, call something like a Damien, call something like a Chad, call something like a Pat, multiple types of Ghosties that you have on the board, all of them having a higher defensive shield value to be able to tank the following turn. Additionally, if you have Ghostie cards in your hand, you can guard with those and they will have more shield on top of that. It is a super tanky deck, guys. So if you're going against cards that have large amounts of numbers, there is a fairly high chance that you'll be able to tank the attack, because there are just so many defensive options when it comes to having this card as your Vanguard. To follow that up, we're going to be playing a one-of in the deck, and that is going to be from a V-Series Mighty Rogue Nightstorm. So his effect is very simple. At the end of the battle that he attacked, you may counterblast 1, then he may res something that the circle that he's not on, and it's just, yeah, very straightforward. It helps enable multi-attacks. You do this on top of, maybe you want to counterblast 1 and then res an additional Beatrice that is in the drop zone. You Soul Blast out the Beatrice, get to res something on top of the Nightstorm, therefore enabling multi-attacks. Similarly, you can maybe res something like a Columbard if you're low on soul and you have more counterblast resources. So he's a very flexible card in that right. He's just a very nice extender for this deck. So we run him as a one-of course, because, you know, he can be searched, because Granblue as it is, it's a very toolboxy deck, which I actually enjoy quite a lot. And then the last grade 3 we're going to be running is, of course, the big beat stick of the deck, and that is the Dragon Dead Unskull Dragon. A lot of undead, a lot of skull, a lot of dragon in that name. Anyway, so the effect, very simple, gets plus 2k for every single additional card that he has in the drop zone, and at the end of the battle that he attacks, he retires, and he just cannot be normal called. Very straightforward effect. Definitely don't ride him if you can. Thin him out, discard him from your hand for stride fodder or whatever reason. You definitely don't want to ride him. But, you know, end game shenanigans and the like that. Combo that stuff with Bad Bounty, combo that stuff out with Megiddo. He just becomes a very powerful card that your opponent just most likely can't guard, because he's talking like we're talking maybe 60k on a final push turn, which is absolutely nuts with this. And of course, you know, you combo this with stuff like Nightstorm and Beatrice, it becomes a multi-attacking monster, which is crazy good. Now we're going to be moving on to the grade 2s. You can be flexible here when it comes to the grade 2 slots, most definitely, but there are a couple cards here that I definitely recommend you run wholeheartedly. So one of those cards is going to be the Skeleton Cannoneer, one of the main defensive options here in your deck. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using a G-Guard called Negro Lily. You're going to be resurrecting the Skeleton Cannoneer via rezzing Beatrice's effect through Negro Lily, and then because you do so, you hollow the Skeleton Cannoneer, counterblast 1, draw a card, and retire one of your opponent's rear guards. Ergo, if you do this on your opponent's turn, it is becoming a Denial Griffin, which is very powerful in the metagame right now. There are a lot of cards that have oppressive rear guards, and you definitely want to kill them if you can. And this card just gets you there. I mean, if need be, it also helps retire pesky rear guards on your turn. So, you know, combo this with something like Big Obadiah, you just help make more board control, which is really nice. But overall, he's just a solid, you know, just a solid card. He's just really good. We run him as a 2-of. You can run him as a 1-of, of course, but, you know, I've had scenarios where I damage check him and I just cannot heal him out for the love of me. And I feel really sad because I don't have my Denial Griffin play. So now I have 2, so that won't happen. To that, we are also going to be running a Ghostie card because this is a primarily Ghostie deck, and that is my main boy, Jesse the Ghostie. I personally love this card. I think he is super adorable. And he has a really good effect. So he is a grade 2 from Drop Zone. He can retire 2 rear guards not named Ghostie the Ghostie, and you may call him from the rear guard circle. Might be a scenario where you use that effect, but in most cases that won't be the case. But his ability is auto. When he attacks, he can get 5,000 power, and then the end of the battle that he attacks, you may retire him, and you may countercharge 1. And then that effect is a hard once per turn, meaning you cannot activate the effect of Jesse the Ghostie again. What makes this card good is just it's a solid countercharger, it helps extend, and then if you do this on top of Beatrice via a bad bounty turn, just enables more multi-attacking shenanigans and the like that. Combo that as well with something like the Protect 2 marker, and you get, you know, higher numbers, which is very nice. Makes harder guard value for your opponent, and just, you know, helps you win the game faster, I guess. Very neat card, and definitely one of my more favorite Ghosties, for sure. Continuing that, we are going to be playing a 4-of staple card, in my opinion. That is Greed Shade. So Greed Shade, very nice card. Very happy that I got a reprint, and I believe the Revival selection, super good because you combo this with Columbard. You can counterblast 1 Columbard, search out a Beatrice, then you use Greed Shade's effect to discard a card, mill 2, and then add the Beatrice to hand, so you have an effective way to grab your guaranteed grade 3 ride. Similarly, you can do this with something like G-Guardians if necessary, if you need the G-Guardian for that Denial Griffin play. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this in combo with Columbard just helps toolbox your entire deck for whatever card you might need to your hand. Or there might be a certain scenario in the later stages of the game where you do need to grab a certain card from your hand. Maybe you nilled out a Overtrigger and you need that 50k shield in your hand. That's possible. Maybe your opponent is damage denying you and you have the Bobo in your drop zone. That can be a possibility too. This just helps grab cards that are necessary from your drop zone and add them into your hand. Very nice card, very good addition for this deck. Similarly, we are going to be running 4 more of a necessary staple in my honest opinion, and that is the Pirate Swordsman Columbard, the V-Series version to be more specific. And this card, just very straightforward, counterblast 1 essentially, search your deck for anything, and then just call a card. Very, very nice in this deck. Having free toolbox for your entire deck in any sort of clan is just stupid. It's great. Especially in Granblue, which utilizes that to a fuller extent. So having the ability to search for a Pat, having the ability to search for a Beatrice, having the ability to search for a Nightstorm, to search for a Grenache, to search for a Mick the Ghostie. There are just so many cards that you can search out for this deck. It's crazy. So yeah, 4 of this card. Obviously, if your opponent is damage denying you, there might be a little bit of a problem there, but we do have a way to go around that problem. And of course, that card is the main man. Hopefully anyone who's playing in Premium knows about him, and that is the Heat Element Bobo. So Bobo, very simple. When he's placed on rearguard circle from hand, if the number of cards in your damage zone is 3 or less, you may countercharge 1, soul charge 1, choose one of your Vanguards, and deal it 1 damage. So yeah, he's just our way to get around people who are trying to damage deny us. Of course, this might change in the later stages of the metagame, as once we get, I believe, in November, we should be getting the Revival selection, and we get the introduction of Heal Guardians. So with Heal Guardians coming into the mix, that might change the overall deck lineup, but at the same time, I personally like Bobo here because the newer Heal Guardian, for Granblue is not a Ghostie unit. So it's a little harder to become a more defensive, but that might not matter in the long term of things. But for now, one heal element Bobo, you can easily search it out with things like your strides, and it'll just get you there. Very necessary. And that'll do it for the grade 2s. Now we're going to move on to the grade 1s here, and the first grade 1 I want to talk to you guys about is a 4 of, and one of, again, you know, it's a Ghostie deck, so we got to play it. It is Damien the Ghostie. So a majority of your good cards are Ghostie cards. Search out your Jessie the Ghostie. Search out your Pat the Ghostie. Search out your Ghostie leader Beatrice. Okay, so if for whatever reason they're damage denying you, right, search out with Colombard, you search out with Damien the Ghostie, and there you go. You have your leader Beatrice with your Greed Shade, and you're good to go. Additionally, you know, he does have another skill at the end of the battle that he attacks. You can retire him, and then you can countercharge 1, and it's a hard once per turn as well. Very similar to Jessie the Ghostie. So also really nice. Combo that with something like Beatrice, helps with more multi-attacking plays, which is very nice. So yeah, he's just a very, very good card. Your ideal grade 1 ride if you can. And if he does, he just helps tutor out your deck to a larger extent, which is super plus in my honest opinion. And then moving right along, we're going to be talking about a 1-of copy of Powdered Bone Negro Bone. Very nice for the later stages of the game, or if you just need that 1 additional res in the earlier stages of your first stride. Very nice addition, once again, just to help res and toolbox your entire deck. And my honest opinion, a 1-of is all you need. And if need be, you can try to bump it as a 2-of, but I just see it as a little less flexible. But you can certainly try, and just let me know how that turns out. And then we're going to move on right to our PGs now. So it's just a plain old Dolph the Ghostie, when placed on Vanguard, pitch draw. And yeah, just a plain old PG. And then one of the reasons why we play him is because he's a Ghostie. So if need be, you can search him out with Damien, put him in the drop zone, Greed Shade, add back to hand. A lot of tutoring you can do there. And then if need be too, for whatever reason, you know, he does have a 0k shield. So if you combo that with Beatrice, oh look, now he's a 5k. Woo! More shield value, boys. Moving on, let us talk about the next grade 1 in our deck, and that is going to be Pat the Ghostie. So another Ghostie card, shocker here. But he's a really neat one. So he is a grade 1 with 4k power, but he is mainly used because if you look here, guys, he has 15k power, as well as the effect that on the drop zone, during the battle that your opponent's Vanguard attacked, if your drop zone has 10 or more cards, you may call him to the Guardian Circle. And then when he's retired from the Guardian Circle, you may bind the card. So, very nice card if we're comboing this with Beatrice, because with Beatrice, he becomes a 20k shield when your opponent's Vanguard attacks. Similarly, if you res this off of Beatrice's effect, or for whatever reason, and you intercept with him with a Protect 2 marker, he becomes a 25k shield, which is very nice. Now, for some people, you might be thinking this is a bit counterintuitive because, you know, it is a card that can only be guarded with once and then is bound, so it's just, as a 3-of, might not make any sense to you, but we do run one card in order to help us with this problem. And what is that card, you might be asking? Well, it is none other than an Overdress card, and it is Sleeve Tugging Bell, and her effect is when placed on Rearguard Circle, you may put all cards from your bind zone into the drop zone, and if you do, she gets plus 5,000 power until end of turn for each card that you bound. So, if you say something like guard with 3 of the Pat the Ghosties from your drop zone, and then you bind all of them, and then on the following turn, you res the Sleeving Tugging Bell, you use her effect, and you can put those cards back into your drop zone, and she gets plus 15k power on top of that, and then setting up your defensive plays for the following turn as well. Very, very nice combo there. Very good cards. So we do run them in this specific order as a 3-of and a 1-of respectively. And of course, this being Granblue, they can be toolboxed out, so it is easier to get there if need be. And that'll do it for the grade 1s. Very flexible, once again, in my honest opinion. And I will say that, you know, you can be certainly creative here when it comes to this build overall. Maybe add a little less Damiens, maybe not go for the Dolph the Ghosties and go for something else. But as it stands right now, I'm perfectly comfortable with this lineup. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. But now let's go over to the grade 0s more specifically. Now, the first one I want to talk about to you guys is the main man himself, the Undying Departed Grenache. So happy that this card got a reprint, guys. You have no idea. So his effect is when he is put into the drop zone due to the hollow ability, you may countercharge 2. So he's just going to be your main way of countercharging in your deck. This deck does consume a lot of counterblast, surprisingly, and Grenache is, of course, going to be that unflipping engine that this deck desperately needs. And, you know, comboing this off of something like a Negro Lily, you can do it on your opponent's turns, which is nice as well. But yeah, more than likely, you're just going to want to res him off the big Obadiah and just help with the countercharging engine to help, you know, keep rolling and rolling and rolling with those resurrectings and those multi-attackings that this deck loves to do. For our starter, of course, gotta run the Guiding Zombie because I don't know, it'll confuse your opponent and they're wondering why you don't run another starter. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's Guiding Zombie. He's the OG. Gotta respect him. All right, and now moving on to triggers. So we do run a one of Mick the Ghostie and family. His effect is very simple. When he is placed on the rearguard circle from the drop zone due to the hollow ability, you may choose one of your units and you may give it 10,000 power. And then when he is retired, he returns to the deck. So very nice card. Can be used both offensively and defensively. If you combo this with Negro Lily, you can res this off of a Beatrice, and then you can give your Vanguard plus 10,000 power, so essentially a free trigger. Or you can use it offensively with something like maybe a Night Storm or something like Jessie the Ghostie, giving it additional power and more pressure onto your opponent. Very nice card, and of course, you know, it is a stand trigger, and there will be certain scenarios in your matches, and I'm not kidding, where your deck will be thin enough where you're like, huh, the stand trigger's still in there, or I can put the stand trigger back, and I can possibly stand one of my rear guards when my Vanguard attacks, hence making more multi-attacks. So, very nice card overall, nice addition for the deck. And now, let's talk about over-triggers, because we gotta talk about over-triggers. So, I am personally running the Cray Elemental, the generic over-trigger, right? So, you might be thinking, okay, why am I not running the Stoicheia over-trigger? Don't get me wrong, the Stoicheia trigger is an amazing over-trigger. It's very powerful. But there are scenarios in this deck where you thin out your deck so much that you get such a low count that that card is essentially a draw 2 as opposed to a draw 1. So it has the high possibility of decking you out. Not only that, but the way I personally multi-attack in this deck, I tend to leave my Vanguard as one of the later attacks in my combo chain, and when I do, there isn't as much for benefit off of the Stoicheia's plus 10,000 power or assigning critical power, as opposed to if I were to attack with the vanilla overtrigger over here and I check it, I can give plus 100 million to either my Vanguard or maybe a booster that I keep in the back row, making it even harder for my opponent to guard on the following attacks. So it's just a little bit of strategy when it comes to multi-attack taining. If you do feel more comfortable though with the Stoicheia overtrigger, by all means go for it. But as it stands right now, the vanilla one is perfectly fine with me, and I'm more of a fan of it right now. To that, we're going to be following up our triggers. We're going to be running 4 of Chad the Ghostie. Not only a Ghostie card, but of course he is our Stride Fodder crit, which is amazing. I'm super glad to be having this as my pitch for Stride, because essentially, once again, on a Beatrice, if need be, it's a 20k shield, so it's just like a free heal right there, and it's a crit trigger, and crit triggers win you games. Welcome to Vanguard, folks. Okay, and then we're going to be running 4 of the generic Rick the Ghostie heal trigger. When, again, like I explained earlier, when the Heal Guardians do come out for the V collection, I probably will try and experiment with the Heal Guardians, but as it stands right now, because Rick the Ghostie is a Ghostie card, he's a little more splashable in this deck, and I like him, and I might do a split, maybe a 3 of Heal Guardian, maybe a 1 of Rick the Ghostie, but time will tell, and I'll continue experimenting with all the cards in the future. Following that up, we're going to be having a 2 of Wild Sea Banshee, very nice, just generic into Soul, plus 10, draw card. You're probably not going to be using it as often as you think, because while it is nice, it's more so situational, and Feeding Soul is good, but the drawing card might be a little detrimental to you in the later stages of the game, depending how many cards you have left in your deck, because this deck does go very thin, very fast. And the last card we're going to be running is, of course, the Rough Seas Banshee. Very nice card for this deck. Essentially for, you know, just a free draw and free soul for a free resource. It's just free. If you see this card immediate in your opening hand, for whatever reason, immediately slap her down and then put her into soul, draw a card. It's just that good. It's free resource, guys. The 5k power might be a little harsh, but in the later stages of the game, the power really won't matter as much, because the crit is going to matter more so than anything. And the 5k is just going to be a minimal number, so it won't matter as much in the long term. And yeah, guys, that is going to do it for the main deck. Like I said, very straightforward, lots of lines of play here, very fun, and it can change around if need be. But as it stands, I'm fairly happy with this deck, and the G-Zone definitely will reflect a few more lines of play here, and it's a lot of fun, for sure. So here's the G-Zone for you folks at home. If you, of course, would like to take that screenshot, you may do so now. Yeah, very nice. There are mainly going to be maybe 2, maybe 3, potentially 4 cards that you go into in this deck. And we'll just explain my reasonings for everything here, though, just to be on the safer side. So the first card we're going to be talking about is your main stride, majority for your first stride, and that is going to be the Big Obadiah himself. Very nice card. Helps you get 5 cards into your drop zone, sets them up. and then the 5k power is nice on top of that. And in the later stages of the game, he just reses a whole board for you for free. Very, very good card, guys. The Counterblast one might hurt, but in case your opponent is damage denying you, you do have the regular Obadiah to fall back on just in case. And then the second card I want to talk to you guys about is your main kill stride, and that is going to be Bad Bounty. Bad Bounty is amazing for this deck. It is so good, guys. So essentially what you're doing is you're just getting a free restand by rewriting a grade 3 onto the drop zone. And because it's most likely going to be Beatrice, it's a free res on top of that, an additional protect 2 marker. I mean, protect 1 marker too, if you want to think about it like that, depending on your matchup. And just more power on top of power and more combos on top of combos. So very nice for this deck. And like I said, majority of the time, this is going to be the card that ends your games. To follow that up, we are going to be running one of the GB8 for the deck, and that is the Immortal Galleon. So Galleon is more times than not just going to be, well, I've got nothing else I can do, I guess. I might as well just go into him. He's nice, especially if you combo that with the G-Guards that flip themselves. I believe her name is Negro Nora. And yeah, the amount of times you go into him is going to be very minimal, but when it does, I mean, there should be no reason why you're not winning the game on that point. To follow that up, we are going to be running Gouache 2 of Copy. So I personally like running Gouache just because there might be a certain scenario, there might be a certain matchup where I need to draw myself a lot of cards. And one particular play I like to do here is I like to try and fish for the Roughseas Banshees as much as I can, shove them all into soul, draw a lot of cards. Then with Gouache's effect, I will stride into him, then res all of those Roughseas Banshees, and then I will re-put them all into the soul and then draw more cards. So if there is going to be a matchup where you do need a lot of cards in your hand as resource, less so on the board, then this is probably going to be a good stride to go into to help set up for that. Very nice card. You might not see it as much, but when the situation does arise, he will be a handy card for you to have. And then after that, let's talk about the boy, Obadiah. Oh my god, I love this guy. So original Obadiah, super cool, helps tutor cards with the Hollow ability, which is really nice. And then, you know, you can just res one normal unit with Ghostie in its card name from your drop zone. So super cool on top of that. So the main play here, okay, boys, is you're going to want to res if your opponent is damage denying you. You're going to want to try and thin and res for the Ghostie leader Beatrice. You res Beatrice, you Soul Blast 1, then you res the Bobo. Bobo's effect deals yourself a damage, and you're good to go. You have your Counterblast to do your multi-attack combos. Of course, you might not only have the ones, so you have to be careful when it comes to the multi-attack flow, but very nice card just as a just-in-case button. So now let us talk about the Progenitor and the Xeroth Dragon. So we do run the one of Balonera Arena. Very good card. If there is a card, you know, if there is cards that say G-Guard a lot, right? Or maybe Dimension Police. There might be a scenario where they have a lot of grade 3s in their hand that they can use. You can draw a lot of cards yourselves and then use those as resources to pop their shield. Or maybe you can, you know, pop pesky G-Guards that they might have that are causing problems for your rear guards or your Vanguard. And then after that, you know, he just becomes free stride fodder, which is nice. There might not be a scenario where you go into him, but it's just nice to have him because, of course, he's going to make the rest of your strides free. And it is actually fairly easier to persona stride in this deck because you thin this deck enough with Ghosties as it is, and you're popping things back into your hand that this is definitely going to be a good card to see and go into. And then, of course, the big boy, Megiddo himself, your big red button, or in this case, your big blue button. But yes, a very good card to help finish and end games, having the ability to just, you know, create this constant multi-attack flow in this deck, and it can be very possible with this deck. The Counterblast 2 might be a little heavy for some people, but in the later stages of the game, it can help set up just to kill your opponent outright, which is nice. For those people who don't have Megiddo, you know, he's not necessary in this deck, I would personally say. He's just more of a win more card, but you know, that's why you do have cards like Galleon, but if you do have him, he's just a nice addition. Now let us talk about the G-Guardians here. So the first one I want to talk to you guys about is the main one, and that is Negro Lily. So Negro Lily is here because not only is this G-Guard amazing for the fact that you just res a Ghostie, you specifically can res Ghostie leader Beatrice, and then with her, you can just res anything you want to help toolbox for your drop zone. So you res that Skeleton Cannoneer, you res the Mick and Ghostie family, you can res Pat the Ghostie to help intercept with it for whatever reason. But yeah, just a very nice toolboxy card. I run her as a 3 of right now. You can run her as a 2 of, and then maybe flex a little more when it comes to the stride zone. But 3 is just perfect with me because I just see it as a denial griffin. And when it comes to denial griffin cards, I like playing them as a 3 of. Now let us talk about the Negro Nora, and she very nice card because she just helps get large shields amounts of value. You have to guard with different grades, but if you're guarding with Ghostie cards and they all have different grades, then they just become larger shield values on top of that, which is very nice. So it helps when it just there's large amounts of pressure on you and they have a super high number and you just go, oh, I have a Negro Nora. And with Beatrice's effect, it becomes a little easier to guard. Very nice. And helps set up for GB8 if, you ever have the need to go to GB8. And then the last card I would like to talk to you guys about is a older card, and that is Dragon Hulk Deep Corpse Dragon. Just a nice generic no card. Helps you get cards into the drop zone and then plus 5,000 shield. Not much else to say there. I'll flex G-Guard, if anything. So just nice. And can be changed if need be. I just like it because it's a free nil, just in case I need to set up my drop zone for anything. And yeah, guys, that is the deck. Overall, this deck is a lot of fun. There are a lot of lines of play that you can do. There's a lot of defensive options. There's just multiple ways that this deck can reward you. But at the same time, there are multiple things that can punish you with this deck. It is a bit more forgiving to players, but at the same time, there is a bit of a learning curve. But it does reward people who think of lines of play and are just very creative with their deck play. So I personally like that with this deck. And yeah, I'm going to probably be tutoring around and fuddling around with this a little longer and just enjoy myself with Premium. But what do you guys think of my Ghostie build here? Let me know in the comments down below. I would definitely appreciate the feedback. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. My name is Mama John from Team Greylock, and I will see you guys next time. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters!